What if the person who vanished wasn't hiking alone in the woods, wasn't backpacking across the globe, but was instead a housewife in her own home, surrounded by her children, in a quiet neighborhood with the door locked behind her? Tonight, we're diving into one of the most chilling and perplexing unsolved cases on record. A loving wife and mother violently attacked in her home once, only to vanish years later without a trace. Her only witness, a terrified 9-year-old child with a story that sounds like it came from a dream. Welcome to Missing Persons Archives, where we cover some of the strangest and most unsettling disappearances in modern history. But some stories go beyond mystery, beyond logic, and drift into a realm that feels almost unreal. This is the disturbing and baffling case of Dorothy Forstein. In 1944, Dorothy Forstein lived a comfortable and peaceful life in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She was the wife of Jules Forstein, a respected magistrate. Together, they raised 3 children, 2 from Jules's previous marriage, and a baby boy of their own. Dorothy was well-liked. No enemies, no scandal, just a kind, attentive mother and devoted spouse. By all accounts, theirs was a typical upper-middle-class family living in a safe, tightly knit neighborhood. But all of that changed one quiet January evening. Dorothy dropped off her children with a friend so she could run some errands. She returned later, groceries in hand, the children safe and sound. Jules was still at work, and everything seemed perfectly normal. That is, until the attack. As Dorothy unpacked groceries, an unknown assailant emerged from the shadows inside her home. He launched a sudden and brutal attack. The children were in their rooms, unaware of what was unfolding. The phone had been knocked off the hook during the struggle, and by a stroke of luck, an operator overheard the chaos and called the police. When authorities arrived, they found Dorothy unconscious on the kitchen floor, battered and bloodied. Her injuries were severe: a broken jaw, fractured shoulder, and a serious concussion, among others. The motive? Unknown. Nothing was stolen. There were no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no suspects. Dorothy survived, but she couldn't recall her attacker's face. Investigators speculated that perhaps someone had targeted her as revenge against her husband, a public official, but without evidence, the case quickly went cold. Still, it wouldn't be the last time Dorothy's name would make headlines. 5 years passed. Dorothy had physically recovered, but the fear never quite left. She and Jules did their best to move on, to return to a normal life. But on October 18th, 1949, something unimaginable happened. Jules was away on business. Dorothy was home with the 2 youngest children. A neighbor later recalled chatting with her that evening. Everything seemed perfectly calm, but when Jules returned around 11 p.m., the house was eerily quiet. Dorothy was nowhere to be found. He searched frantically and discovered the 2 children hiding in a closet, trembling with fear. His 9-year-old daughter, Marcy, told him a story that would haunt the family and investigators for decades. Marcy said she heard a noise and went to investigate. That's when she saw a man, a complete stranger, wearing a brown peaked cap and jacket, carrying her unconscious mother down the stairs. He had slung Dorothy over his shoulder and was calmly walking out the door. When Marcy asked him what he was doing, he stopped, patted her gently on the head, and said, "Go back to sleep, little one. Your mommy has been sick, but she will be all right now." Then he left. Before closing the door behind him, he did something chilling. He locked it from the inside, as if to protect the children from something or someone else. It was the last time anyone ever saw Dorothy Forstein. Police responded immediately. Hospitals, morgues, even nursing homes across Philadelphia were checked. Nothing. Captain James Kelly of the Philadelphia Police sent out more than 10,000 alerts to agencies and institutions across the country. But not a single lead ever surfaced. No sightings, no suspects, no body. Some questioned Marcy's story, but her account never changed, and she spoke with the quiet clarity of a child who had simply told the truth. And then, just like Dorothy, the story seemed to vanish. Despite national news coverage in the early days, the Forstein case faded from the public eye within a week. Even with Dorothy being the wife of a prominent public official, the attention stopped abruptly, almost suspiciously. Some believe this was at the request of the family. Others suspect a more disturbing reason: a cover-up. Author Troy Taylor, who investigated the case years later, reported that after publishing Dorothy's story on his website in 2003, he received a polite but firm letter from an attorney representing the Forstein family. The letter asked him to remove the story, not with threats, but with an appeal for privacy. Other websites who shared the story reported receiving similar letters. The question remains, why the silence? Why the secrecy? Was Dorothy's abductor the same man who attacked her 5 years before? Was it a stranger, or someone closer than anyone realized? And why, decades later, does the Forstein family, or someone acting on their behalf, still seem to want the case buried? No evidence, no explanation, no resolution. Dorothy Forstein's disappearance is one of the most bizarre and chilling mysteries in American true crime. Not just because she vanished, but because of how completely the story itself nearly vanished too. What happened to Dorothy? Was it a random act of violence, or something far more calculated? Until new evidence emerges, if it ever does, we're left only with a child's haunting testimony and the echoes of a mystery the world wasn't meant to solve. If you found this story as chilling as we did, please subscribe to Missing Persons Archives. And, as always, stay curious, stay aware, and stay safe.